Hey, 2LaneLife fans, we're here today in South Dakota at the 80th Rally, and we're sitting at Legend Suspension. We're here with Jesse, and we're going to have a great day with him.
Yeah, we're going to have a special treat for you. Jesse's going to give us a tour of this facility, and you're going to see how this stuff is made.
This particular bike is Feuling W3. You can notice it's got 3 cylinders. This bike just got in from California. They rode here to Sturgis to the 80th anniversary. This one has our 14-inch remote reservoir Legend arcs. We're going to show everybody how they're built here in the back in just a minute.
We are at Legend Suspension. We are in their facility right now. We're going to get a little tour and show you guys what it's all about.
So this whole facility, it's about 20,000 square feet. It was pretty full of CNC machines. We teamed up with a partner about 400 miles away. We were at capacity, and we realized we were running machine shop, marketing, and new product development. And the machine shop was the one thing that we had to let go of to grow. So moved our machining elsewhere, so anytime there's breakdowns or capacity problems, they're able to fill in those gaps and just keep on moving. So it's real helpful to go up and down. We're still in control of all the parts, but having that outside the building really allows us to slow down or grow without any hiccups. And just aluminum components, I think it's about 30,000 pieces a month we're getting from them. We QC every single piece here. We don't want to catch it in the assembly process. We want to catch it ahead of time before our labor's in it. So you'll build a pair of shafts first. This is what that sub-assembly looks like. So shim stack, pretty simple shim stack. Closure nut, and then an O-ring with a closure nut on the top of the body.
So these are the
those would
Rev A's?
Yep. So that'd drop in here just like that. Closure nut. So then these are set up here. So that assembly will come in here, and that's the capillary tube for the Revo A, this base valve. So as you adjust this, that's just a gun barreled, a different size holes in it. We pump fluid purposely down with the piston through that orifice, back up that capillary tube, and then it throws that oil back on top of the piston and just keeps recirculating it. But once that sub-assembly step is done, then they're gonna put that in here, not tight yet, and then they're gonna use automatic feed, fill it, pump that shaft a couple of times and get all those air bubbles out, tighten it up, and then pass it on to the next guy. He's gonna take whether it's an air rat or a coil, he's going to put a spring or an air spring on it. So this big beast is the soft-tail twin cam coil shocks, are about a 900 PSI coil. And then the new monoshock soft tails are about 800-pound spring. So it takes a beefy fixture. This is what all the Revos and Arcs use. So you just put that body in there, hit the switch, it'll push the coil down, and then you're putting your top half, jam nut, all that stuff on the top. And then this last fixture here, it'll press the hind bearing and the snap ring in there all in one motion with that big press. So here is just pressing in that hind bearing. Then that little tool will just spread those fingers and push that snap ring in and lock it. And then from here, they'll cart, again, per purchase order, and they'll run right to the packing station, which is a foam packer.
I have a dumb question. Is
Yep.
the spherical bearing unique to Legend?
There's a couple others out there, but they're real expensive, and that's
Yeah.
why you don't see them in many. For pennies versus dollars, we could have a rubber grommet in there,
Right.
but it doesn't work proper either.
Right.
Every bike is out of alignment in one way, shape, or another, and that just keeps it true. Air compressors obviously have onboard air compressor, so we pre-wire everything here once we get it. We've got a real simple system, so there's only 3 Deutsch connectors for the whole kit. The other end of this would have a handlebar control and your 2 shocks. So really the labor for a big part of that install labor is taken care of. You don't have to find a location for any of these parts. All powder coated steel brackets, billet aluminum clamps powder coated. So we want to make sure that it's definitely a bolt-on kit and kind of a no-brainer.
Rob, you wanted to try some air ride, didn't you?
Yeah, one of these days.
And we've got demo bikes you can try too while you're here. This is an air spring assembly for an FL. So this is the rubber sleeve that we would start with. It's got a Kevlar type of aramid fiber in it, so it's really impenetrable. You can't really pop them or have them break. When you do get air pressure in them, they're really hard as a rock. But same material as a bulletproof vest. You can see that weaving kind of built into it. The other thing it does is it only grows 2% diameter, which is about a millimeter, with up to 1500 psi that we test to. The most anybody would ride would be 70 psi if your average weight, maybe up to 100 if you got a couple of bigger people on it. So really offers a lifetime warranty because we're running 10% of what it can handle. This particular company and material is used by BMW and Land Rover on all their air suspension vehicles. So it's been around for years. We've got an exclusive for the motorcycle and power sports market. That's what that raw sleeve looks like when it's ready to go into a shock. We crimp a top ring on it, and then we also crimp a sleeve on the bottom. In this machine here, you just drop that air spring in here. Your cap would already be set in it. You'd put your air spring in it, measure these of course, hit your foot feet, and it crimps that onto the end. Then that machine by Galen there, once you put that assembly in it with both ends, you inject air in through the bottom, and then it rolls it over itself. So that rolling lobe is constantly moving when you're riding it. That's what gives you the ride quality. Would you put that back on that shelf right there? Thank you. So front end process really is very similar to the rear, almost emulates it, and it starts over right here. So here you can see quite a few cartridges unassembled. But we'd start with the shafts, put your piston back on it. These are a series of different little shims. That deflective disc damping is that flexes when fluid is flowing through that piston. So that's really what gives you the damping and control, is a series of these paper thin shims, and they're all different thicknesses and weights. Once you assemble those two shafts, then it goes in a fixture and it's sitting here in front of you. You'll thread a cap on it for the top, and then here you will start to fill cartridge tubes. 49 millimeter 2+ over tubes there. Then these are more of a 41 millimeter shorter cartridge kit. So these have the piston, the air piston set to a certain depth, and then we put nitrogen on one side of it, and we put shock fluid, Maxima shock fluid on the other side.
So shock fluid in this side and nitrogen
in this side. So, and then this will be the bottom. So as you're riding it hard and making it perform, you're building pressure in this body. Once you get to a certain point, you've hit the brakes real hard to stop for an emergency. That piston is going to build enough pressure where then it finally starts moving that nitrogen. Once you're into that nitrogen, then it becomes real stiff and harsh. So we're able to give you a performance, also sort of an emergency stop at the end there. So you really don't get any bottoming out. That nitrogen piston is going to help assist that. Once we fill the cartridge and get the cartridge basically buttoned up, that shaft's going to go in it. The coil spring will go on the bottom, and then a lot of times that lower leg is determined. A couple of different models, a lot of that's the lower leg or that cartridge length, because we can set that cartridge in that front end by adjusting either the cartridge tube length or the lower rod length and make it fit a soft tail, FL, several different models. So it's fairly universal, not completely, but I think there's maybe 30 different fitments right now out of about 3 or 4 different cartridge styles.
Well, it's interesting, when we take the front ends off of the bikes and install this, I mean, you take the Harley stock and it's springs and spacers.
Right.
You know, so you're getting that hard.
Not a lot of damping.
Yeah.
Not a lot of technology,
Right.
really. It's
Yeah.
cost effective and I think universal. They
Right.
never know what size, weight riders, what skill level the riders will be. So they kind of got to hit the middle of the road. We can tune that in
Right.
to the person's riding preference quite a bit better than OE. Yep. So these front end kits will come with oil, top out spacers and everything they need. Everything we build has Maxima, so there's 50-gallon drums under the benches down there, so all rears use Maxima. And then all of our front end kits,
Also, Maxima's in the rear as well.
it is all the rear shocks, has been for years, and then we provide the front fork fluid too. The name of the game for us is counting how many times you touch the parts, keep that to a minimum. We count steps, we keep everything in one piece flow of movement so we're not running all over the shop, and then we feed those individual cells ahead of time before they're there to work. Everything funnels to here. Kind of our last checks and balance is we knew that when this PO started over there, we knew what the quantity was. As it works its way around, our last check is we only print the install manuals that are needed for that order. We only pull the spacer kits that are needed for that order and print the barcodes for it. So once we're done touching them all here and they funnel here, they're palletized to go out the door immediately within a couple of days. So these quantities obviously have to match what that PO was, or something went wrong somewhere.
Isn't it crazy? I mean, again, another company in the USA manufacturing parts, putting it all together, shipping it out to customers, and it's great material, man.
If you break down on the road,
Gotcha.
and you're in the middle of nowhere and you need a shock, this is just enough to be able to overnight you what you need, or a bike shop.
Gotcha.
We know that the tech doesn't make money, the dealership doesn't make money, and neither do we if they're broke down somewhere. So this inventory will just allow that we can get that bike off the table for that tech, and they can keep their business flowing.
I have I have 55,000 miles on my Road Glide, and I've never needed any warranty. Stuff's working great.
That's what we like to hear. That's the best case scenario.
Yes.
Yep.
Got your job? No?
This is a broom and a dustpan still. Tearing down cardboard. But anytime he's not homeschooling.
And that's one thing that's great about the Legend family. It's family.
Right? It truly is. And everybody here rides.
Yeah.
It's not a suit and tie company.
Right.
It's enthusiasts.
Right.
Down to Mary that answers the phone. She rides dirt bikes, and all the way through everybody rides. So it's good to work with like-minded people.
Oh yeah. Nothing better.
Right.
And you're hearing it from the guy, Jesse Jurens. How long have you been around Legend? It's been around
20 years officially as business, maybe about 23 to 25 total. Yeah.
So the new logo was resulting of the 20 years,
Yep,
right?
yep. Just this year is our 20th anniversary.
Nice.
Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you guys. Check my hand.
Oh no, we have to elbow bump.
You're right. Distancing.
Hey guys, we just really enjoyed that tour. I hope you did. And now we're going to come back and look at this really unique bike built by Feuling. You can see it's got 3 cylinders, pretty crazy. What do you think we're going to do?
We're going to talk about this setup. I mean, this bike came 1,800 miles across from California to South Dakota in all kinds of conditions. And Evan has been involved in the build of this project too.
Yeah, this is actually a really unique build for us. The W3 engine, originated back in the early 2000s, but we kind of revamped it and brought it back to life and put this Road Glide styling behind it that's really updates the feeling of the bike. But when we built this bike, the rear end was really set up for solo rider with not much weight. And coming out to Sturgis, everybody knows you need to load up the bike. And so that's what we did. We loaded it up. We had a bag up here on the passenger seat. We had the saddlebags fully loaded, and we didn't adjust the suspension before we left. But the nice thing about these Revo Arc shocks is that everything's so adjustable that we could do it on the fly. So we had the saddlebags fully loaded with a bag up here on the seat, and we never adjusted the suspension before we got on the road. But the nice thing about these Revo Arc shocks is that everything's easily adjustable on the fly. We're able to adjust preload, compression, and rebound, and get the bike handling where it needs to be.
Yeah, it was kind of cool to see that, one setting down, one setting, and then really started to line that thing up, and he was on a rail after that.
Yeah, just a couple of adjustments here and there, and that's one thing that we really focused on when we were riding down the road as a pack. We would watch how the bike was handling and then make adjustments from there.
And one thing, and the adjustments are important because when you look at that, that's 3 cylinders there. What kind of horsepower is that thing putting out?
We're upwards of 180 plus.
180 plus, so you got to have suspension that works, and this thing is a beast. Just look at the exhaust.
And what I think is really cool, we had it at a show, right?
Yep.
And people were just taking a look at this thing and taking pictures. It went viral on Facebook. But this thing is ridden, as you said earlier. This did 1,500. Look at the dirt and the rain and I mean, it made it here no problem.
Yeah, it's still muddy if the gas, everything's.
Yeah, from show queen to road.
Right. I mean, it's amazing to me.
That's the cool thing about this, is the fact that it's not just wheeled in and out and washed.
Right.
Yep.
This thing was used and abused.
And even when we were out, people were coming up and they just, they look at this in amazement and awe. It's like, what is that thing?
And this did a 5, I don't know if it was 5 to 8 mile dirt road.
Yeah.
This bike did it, So.
But it had the right suspension for it.
Yeah.
It sure did. Thanks, Evan, for enlightening us on that. It's cool to hear.
So as mentioned earlier, this is a full custom build, again done by Feuling Parts, using one of our patented W3 engines. This is not something that was produced by Harley. This is strictly from Feuling, but it was made as a modular to the twin cam engine, so it has a lot of similarities, but we also have a lot of custom attributes to it as well, like the crankshaft, the cam plate, but surprisingly still able to use a standard twin cam oil pump. But some other cool features on this bike is we are running all the Thrashin hard parts. So we have Thrashin risers and handlebars up here. We have the foot pegs, both for passenger and rider. Even the shifter tip over on this side here. Legend rear suspension, and we got some other, not only is the pipe itself unique, but there's also internally inside the muffler we're using our patented dog ball technology, and then up here on the header pipes just coming out of the cylinder head you'll also see our patented Feuling AR chambers, or anti-reversion chambers. Thrashin also uses this on their own exhaust systems. Really cool feature, helps with the reversion coming out of the head, and we've noticed good power increases with them as well. Exhaust was actually custom built in-house by our guy Cameron. He does all of our fab work. He did an excellent job on this. Sounds awesome too, going down the road or even just sitting at an idle. And this actually, now that we're rolling with it, this is actually was a big deal for us. This is a fuel injected W32. All the other ones that we built in-house previously were all carbureted. So this is the first one to actually get a full fuel injection system, which actually really helped out with some of the performance that we got out of the bike. So we had a great time building the bike. We had a better time riding it out to Sturgis. And if you want to see a full build spec video, check out the link right down here. And that's it.
Yeah, Evan, we really appreciate the time you took with us and to go through this and give us all the information. And riding with you here is great, man. Side by side, brother.
Always a good time. And if you had as much fun watching this video as we did riding, good time was had by all.
By all, baby.